Some of you didn't believe me when even I was telling you this is going to happen, and now it's official. Spring, PlayStation is getting Forza Horizon 5. And to be honest with you, I, again, personally never really saw this ever being a thing until, you know, Microsoft became multi-platform. It's the plan of Game Pass. Gameplay everywhere, and ultimately, everyone wins. But Ivory Tower doesn't win. They're the actual genuine only losers in this situation. But also, maybe not. Is there a world where The Crew Motorfest and Forza Horizon 5 could coexist? Because, just to get this out the way for the first point, PlayStation 5 is the platform for playing games. With Forza Horizon now being on PlayStation and likely Forza Horizon 6 coming to PlayStation in the future, is there a future for Motorfest or Motorfest 2? Quick answer, yes. Long answer, maybe. Okay, before we dive in, I just want to make something very, very clear. The Crew Motorfest is not a perfect game. Forza Horizon is not a perfect game. We're mostly here taking into account the replayability, the replay value, the enjoyment I get from actually doing the racing and the objectives within the game. I have a bias to The Crew in that I prefer that one. But I can agree that for most people that want a car experience where they just get everything and do everything, Forza may be the better option. So very soon, both games are going to be fighting for your FOMO attention. Fear of missing out, by the way. So what these games tend to do, and are doing a little bit less than they used to do, which is interesting that taking that step before they go over to PlayStation, they used to fight over your time. Every single week, they introduce a new set of events for you to do, which are usually just refreshed events of events you've played a million times before, giving you rewards for doing so, which is nice, but time limiting them always felt a little bit weird. But I do want to say it's actually The Crew that introduced this FOMO into the world of racing games, at least from modern times. The Summit came before the festival playlist. But who's going to come out on top here? Who's going to be the dominator of your time, your patience, the sales, the money, the babes, or the men? Well, that's what I wanted to explore today and really take a deep dive into what I would like to see both games do to differentiate. Or do I really think they have a chance of staying the same and competing within the same big platform, the same big pool, and both being crossplay and both? This could be very interesting. Before we begin, I think there's going to be crossover for the for and against arguments, and I think that's okay. Depends on your opinion on what you prefer, what things you don't like about either game, and ultimately, we're going to go through these lists and see what you think, because it's your money, it's your decision, right? New Turtle Beach product. This is the Velocity 1 Multi-Shift. That's right, folks. They made a shifter. 7-speed H-gate gearbox with reverse and an on-the-fly switch to change to sequential mode. Yes, it does both. But friends, you might be asking, why on earth have you got two? Well, friends, this is the party trick. H-gate sequential. What else is there? Handbrake. That's right. This could also be used as a handbrake. Therefore, two of them. It actually uses Hall effect magnetic tech for smooth, long-lasting durability. It has multiple ways to mount it, including desk and rig mount. Compatibility with PC and Xbox. And man, I love the short throws of this thing. If you want to get your own, check the link down below in the description. And of course, use my code to help me out and save yourself 10%. So there you go, the Turtle Beach Velocity 1 Multi-Shift. Let's start with the arguments for it staying the same. Forza Horizon and The Crew, keeping these same festival theme. Games of the same genre can coexist. It's absolutely fine for that to be a thing. Hell, look, Call of Duty, Battlefield, they're both going to exist, and they're both going to be military shooters, and they're both taking a very, 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 very similar path. And that's not the only two shooters out there. There's many of them, and they all kind of keep the same theme. It's fine. I mean, that stuff is inspired a little bit more by real life. The festivals and the car games are not really inspired by stuff in real life because it's just not something that genuinely happens. So, like, you could argue that. But ultimately, the good thing is that each game, both games, will be fighting for your attention. Now, they could play it clean or they could play it dirty, but it shows they've got intent so far of actually making it so that they're just a more fun place to be. If you miss out on things, there's a way to go back and try it. Hell, maybe both are gonna fight for the fact that you could have both games, but you get a choice of which one you play when. Either way, I think it's going to be a battle of who's going to make the most fun experience, who's going to be the experience that people default to. That's what they want to be. They want your time and they want your money. But ultimately, this is a win-win for us, whether they stay the same or not. Number two, there are actually differences between the games. So in The Crew, for example, you have these mini bite-sized experiences that focuses specifically on like an era or a type of vehicle. This is Japan, a location, just kind of a little bubble of an experience that you can't really get in another racing game. They change the environment, for example. Forza doesn't do anything like this, and if they double down on the whole idea of branching little stories with maybe less vanilla characters, with just a little bit more love, a little bit more depth, they could really create some incredible little stories that people are interested in continuing to play long term, and they can choose the universe that they want to be part of and maybe stick there. So there's a route that they could go in that direction. While being roughly the same, it can actually be quite a different experience, because Forza doesn't tend to really focus on story very much. The story in Forza is almost just a little guide to get you going. You don't really need to actually care about the characters. They never really give much depth to them. They're not interesting. They're there to handhold you until you get into the flow of the game, and then the game goes. So that's probably the route they're going to continue to do, because it's clearly working very well for them. Forza focuses on like the removal of restrictions, so you can just kind of go and do what you want. Except drive through that tree. Bro, I think I'm at, oh wait, I'm out. Oh good, we're fine. If you want to jump into a game and race without any real interruption, then this is a good one for it. And I think there's absolutely a place for something like this. But here's where I want to go to a possible other route that they could actually go. What if one of them, or maybe both of them, but maybe one of them more than the other, went the Test Drive Unlimited route? And I'm not talking about TDU Solar Crown, don't worry. But I think we can all absolutely agree that the introduction of houses in Forza was a really cool idea. But the fact that you can't really do anything with that is very infuriating. And again, the Crew 2 had houses. The Crew Motorfest doesn't have them at all, which just never made sense to me, because that was one of the cool... I just liked having a space that was my own. Maybe they could go that route again and actually focus more on that side of things. Which then, in case you didn't know, both of these games actually take a lot of inspiration from the Test Drive Unlimited series. They're both trying to be it while also not trying to be it at all, because they're getting really far away. Even Test Drive themselves can't do it, so clearly it's a struggle. One of the other big differences between the two games is that it's obvious that the Crew focuses on adding gameplay, whereas Forza looks to add cars. And I think both approaches are fine, and I think both approaches vary in results. And I think I personally love something like this, where they go completely away from what the game was before. Like, I just don't get it. It's so much fun though. I finally got a new game where I can do lowrider battles that isn't just going back to GTA San Andreas and replaying that whole beginning of the game again just to get to the lowrider mission that I enjoy so much. To be clear though, neither of the games are low on cars, but Forza just does cars in mass that no one else can manage to match. It's just crazy the amount of vehicles. But it does come with some restrictions in terms of the customization is generally a little bit more limited. And then because the Crew focuses on gameplay quite a lot, I feel like it takes them a bit longer to actually come out with updates that are significant. So those are my arguments for them staying the same, because ultimately, I don't think they necessarily need to stay the same. There are clear similarities between the games, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, look at Midnight Club and Need for Speed. But we are unfortunately in a time where people really decide with their wallets, in that they can't buy everything, or at least not at the beginning. I don't know, it's exciting, but it's also quite nerve-wracking in that, should they keep Motorfest the theme, or should they go back to something else, or do something else? Here are the arguments against them staying the same. Maybe this is a chance that Ubisoft can take a different approach with the Crew. Each Crew has been more and more successful than the last, and that is no surprise, because they are dialing it in and getting it right and really knowing how to get the game going with content. But we know the approach that Forza is going to take. It really takes a mega vanilla, just, I want to punch these rich knobs approach, which, hey, maybe that's kind of the route they were going for because they were trying to go for the test drive route, but it just made the most insufferable character. But then the crew one went from like really actually interesting characters, maybe some corny, but really interesting characters and development of story and arcs, and then we kind of got Horizon again. Like, there are some interesting characters in this game, don't get me wrong, but I feel like overall they are all less interesting than the Crew 2, and the Crew 2 were all less interesting than the Crew 1. There's no people that you can get used to. You don't have enough time with them. You don't have enough time for an arc, a story, like, that you don't... I don't care. I don't care about any of these people. They're all one-lining, corny, just they went with the Forza Horizon route of just making everyone not interesting. No one wants to say a bad word about you, and that really infuriates me. I've got to be honest. We need to stop this. We can stop pretending everyone is 5 years old. There's a chance we can go darker, more scary. I mean, Need for Speed is taking this big hiatus, and it's very, I mean, I don't want to say it's very obvious, but it's very likely that the Crew 3 or for whatever, the next Crew game is already kind of being planned at the very least, if not already in some form of development. Usually, I imagine the very early stages of such. It just, unless there's not going to be another one. And this one was more successful than the last. And I need story, I need atmosphere, and that overall is not really here. It's become less and less. And so there's a chance that they could double down on that to really distinguish themselves. But I think another overall approach they could go for is maybe a combination of both. Yes, they've got the festival, and I think it's okay. I think it's fine. Again, Forza doesn't own the rights to do that, but with both games being so similar on the surface, it's hard not to be like, if you looked at the covers, you'd be like, what is this? It's kind of nutty. I think you can have a blend of the more gritty, dark, and dingy, and have the festival competition racer like you did previously. I think that's okay. The Crew 1 pulled it off really well. But think if they went a combination of, okay, let's go back to more of the Crew 1 story, but hey, maybe we sprinkle a little bit more test drive in here, because we know that Forza's not probably going to do much more like that. And if they do, well, do it better. And the Crew already has really good customization, so we keep that Need for Speed style customization, and it still separates itself from Need for Speed because, well, the maps are absolutely massive for one. That's something that they always do really well, and looks like that they know that they wish they'd done that again in this game. Yeah, I did map expansions, and they'll probably do more. I don't know. I think it's an interesting time. I think Ivory Tower and Ubisoft are really going to be thinking hard. But I think almost the obvious way is probably... Oh, I love the wheel hand motions in this. I think the obvious way is probably to make it a little bit different for the next game. Maybe a bit more significantly different. You can keep the festival, just maybe don't make it the whole game. Yes! Goodbye, Skyline! I'm going to bid it. All good. Overall, we win. People are going to be fighting for our attention more than ever, which is awesome. There are more games and more people to be playing the games that we're playing with and playing on and playing in. Both publishers are in their respective troubles in extremely different ways. That is very obvious. Don't need to get into the details, but Game Pass isn't doing as well, and Ubisoft as well. If Assassin's Creed doesn't go well, I think it's toast. Could this actually make it so that they're going to fight over our enjoyment of these games, our satisfaction, our excitedness for more and more of those games? Putting aside the FOMO BS and focusing on this is the more fun game. I think long term we're in for an incredibly exciting time. Very excited. Let's see what they do for us. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you've got neither of these games, is Forza Horizon 5 on PS5 now gonna make you buy Forza Horizon 5 on PS5, or you played the Crew, you're gonna buy where are you? What did you do? Are you gonna get both? Have you got both? Watch the video here.